we're talking about AI takeover. I'm throwing this headline up. This is my National Enquirer headline, Jay, to get sales. AI takeover. Will this be the end of humanity? Just, you know, little dazzle razzle dazzle going question on. But it's a legitimate question that we should ask ourselves. This is an ongoing thing. This isn't just snap your fingers, it's starting now. But I thought this was a good time to do this story because we saw this happen just a few days ago. Google launches VEO3, an AI video generator that incorporates audio. Okay, what's the significance of this one? Well, this was on Tuesday, so a week ago. AI video generator that can also create and incorporate audio. The artificial intelligence tool competes with OpenAI's Sora video generator, but its ability to also incorporate audio into the video that creates its key distinction. The company said VEO3 can incorporate audio that includes dialogue between characters as well as animal sounds. It excels from text and image, prompting the real-world physics and accurate lip syncing. They're so excited. Eli Collins, Google DeepMind product vice president, he's so excited. Look at this. We can fool everybody with this stuff and make it look real. The latest launch comes as imagery and video become popular use cases for generative AI prompts. Prompts being the thing that is the creation of the AI creator, which is now I'm saying it's going to replace art as we know it with these prompts. OpenAI CEO Sam Altman in March said that ChatGPT's 40 image generator was so popular that it caused the company's computing chips to melt. The company said it had to temporarily limit the feature's usage. So Google has had a mixed track record when it comes to AI imaging generators. Last year, they had a relaunch Imagine 3 tool as it surfaced historically inaccurate results. When AI goes wrong, it caused widespread criticism, and they had this mishap due to lack of thorough testing. Well, let's see one example of this, and this is coming out quick, man. This isn't just we're still in let's analyze this stage. Let's see how people respond. They jumped on this thing as soon as Google released this on Tuesday. People jumped on it. This one was circulating around Twitter. This is fake comedy done with prompts, and it's going to suggest some stuff to us. And I think a lot of people are cheering when they see this. We're a little more concerned here at the Homeless Stuff. You guys decide for yourself. Is this exciting or is this concerning?
Me, we're made of prompts. Like, seriously, dude. You're saying the only thing standing between me and $1 billion is some random text?
Honestly, the biggest red flag is when the guy believes in the prompt theory. Like, really? We came from prompts? Wake up, man.
You want to convince me that this perfect creation behind me is the result of ones and zeros? A binary code and nothing more? It makes no sense.
Imagine you're in the middle of a nice date with a handsome man and then he brings up the prompt theory. Yuck. We just can't have nice things.
We're not prompts. We're not prompts.
Where is the prompt writer to save you from me? Where is he?
You still believe we're made of prompts? Anyone who tells you we're just ones and zeros is delusional. If that's all we are, then why does it hurt when we lose someone?
Vote for me and I'll ban the prompt theory from schools. There's no place for that nonsense in our lives.
For spreading the false theory that we are nothing but ones and zeros, this court sentences you to 12 years in federal custody.
I don't need some prompt god whispering in my ear to tell a story. I write what I want. I have free will, remember that?
I know for a fact we're made of prompts. Deny it all you want. The signs are everywhere.
You know how I know we're made of prompts? Because nothing makes sense anymore. We used to have 7 fingers per hand. I remember it clearly. Now we just have 5 fingers per hand.
I don't know about you, Jay, but I'm not laughing right now. How are you feeling? Excited or concerned?
I mean, it's interesting to watch, like just to see, like how far AI has come. Like, I would be lying if I said it's not interesting to see like what technology can do. But it really does make you ask the question, how are we really going to be able to tell the difference between reality and AI video on the internet now? Because in some of the scenes, it kind of looked a little bit funny, but you really have to look close. And if you're just watching a video in passing, chances are, you may or may not catch it. So the biggest danger with AI is not just that, but I think also, as Whitney Webb pointed out, in that roundtable show that happened this past weekend, people become pretty much dependent on AI for answers and forget how to really research things. The same way how we don't do mental math anymore because we have a calculator. No one knows their times tables past 9 times 9 or 10 times 10. That's like the limit for folks nowadays. It just seems like we're going to lose our ability to actually do research because AI is going to do it for us. And while right now the answers may be 70 to 80% correct, on a lot of things, the more we trust it, the more it's going to become controlled. Like once we no longer have the skill set and people don't know how to research, that's when they're not even going to try to keep things, like a little bit more in line with reality. They'll just tell us, there is no innocent Palestinians in Gaza. They're all terrorists. That's what AI will tell us one day. And if people have forgotten how to do research themselves, they're just going to buy it.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned Whitney Webb, and I think we do need to play a little clip from this roundtable that Derek Bros put together on his Conscious Resistance Network. He had Whitney on there. He had Jason Burmez, Ryan Christian, James Corbett, who I guess in this clip, he's going to discuss this existential nightmare humanity is facing with the rise of AI. He takes a kind of a not neutral stance, but he sees the pros and cons. We'll play this clip. But yeah, you mentioned Whitney Webb. I don't have a clip of her talking, but if you guys want to go to Derek Bros, his website on the Conscious Resistance Network, you can find the full dialogue. It was a 2-hour discussion, very important discussion, by the way. And I would trust these guys' takes early on, because again, we're just trying to figure this out. Nobody knows the answer, but we're just trying to figure this out. Here's a little clip of James Corbett's take on what we can expect just as creators or artists or people trying to share content in an honest way. Check it out.
Have my qualms, as you can see, about AI. Of course, it is wrong. It hallucinates. We know these problems, right? But you can imagine, that's just some, bugs they're going to wrinkle out of this. Whatever. They'll iron that out eventually. More importantly, it is making your brain atrophy. There are already signs of the cognitive decline of the people who over rely on AI to do their thinking for them. But okay, some people will take it too far, but as long as you know how to use it properly. Okay, so how about the controlled, centralized nature of the AI implementations that most people use, the Groks, the ChatGPTs, etc. That obviously is a tool point for potential censorship and control in the future. I think exactly as Whitney said, this is the carrot phase. There will be a stick phase. And it's coming a few years from now. Suddenly, wow, this isn't as useful anymore. Now it's just telling me all the propaganda stuff. But that could be countered, like Hakeem says. Well, just run your own local implementation and make sure it's air gapped and don't connect it to the internet. So you got your own. As Ernest Hancock often says, I want Jarvis, not Siri. As in, I want my own personal implementation of this, decentralized, off the grid. Okay, all right. Also, another problem with this. The only information that AI ever has is digital information that has been digitized. So all it knows is what is on the internet or what has been pumped in through digital channels. It knows nothing about the actual real world that has not been digitized yet. So that's kind of a flaw. But all of those things are, you could say, well, they'll get better at it. It'll be better. They'll refine it. But no, the fundamental problem is what Whitney points at. This is an existential threat to humanity. We are going to lose what it means to be human the more we attach ourselves to these machine implementations.
I think a pretty honest, fair assessment. And he mentioned Whitney there. Whitney, I think she has a more a darker take on that. We need to stay the hell away from this altogether. But maybe if we're smart about it, I don't know. I tend to maybe lean to James is like maybe we can pick and choose as long as we're smart with it. How we can not let it take over us, but a lot of people won't. A lot of people, like he said, he talked about our brains are losing their ability right now in the world we live in now with the phones in our hands right now. We see people lessening their abilities and their skills. It's like sitting on the couch all day and then thinking you can get up and walk around normally. If you don't ever utilize your legs, we're not utilizing our brains anymore. I think that's the concern, Jay. Where are you at with everything moving into this new realm here as they're having this discussion?
So, all valid concerns. And I'll be honest with you, sometimes I do use it as a starting point for several reasons. Number one, I think it's beneficial to know what the establishment per se is good with us knowing. I think also in order to build up trust in AI, they're not going to make it, say anything that is easily disprovable by the average person. They're going to try to, keep it as non-controversial as they can while it's being rolled out so people trust it more. So I think there is a use case for it if you're using it as a starting point. Like, say for example, the other day, we were trying to decide whether or not the vitamin K shot, was a good idea, like for our child. So I saw what Grok had to say about it. Grok said, all good, nothing to worry about. Go ahead, move forward with it. And then I also said, you know what? Let me ask Grok a different prompt. I said, is there any evidence that the shot is more effective than the drop when it's being done on a schedule? Because you can also take vitamin K through a drop. They said, oh, no evidence that it's better, than the drop, running it through the schedule. So sometimes knowing what to say, knowing how to frame your questions can get you more reliable answers. However, that was my starting point. After that, I went in and I looked up studies myself, and I found about 6 or 7 studies that have been done since the 90s comparing the effectiveness of the vitamin K shot to the vitamin K drop. And they all pointed to it having, just as much potency, like, as each other, when they're both being used at the same time. So, if you want to use it as a starting point, your assumption should always be that whatever I hear here, this is what the establishment wants me to know. And this is, it may have good information, but it may also be leaving stuff out. So I do think there is a use case, but you always have to have that mind frame that this is a tool that can be used to mislead people.
So that's a great place to basically get on board with James Corbett and say we can be smart about this. I think later in the interview, he brings up Wikipedia. He says anybody who uses Wikipedia and takes it for face value doesn't understand the way it is structured. And the way it's structured is you can't trust it. You have to go to it. You have to go deeper into it, find the articles that are being cited, and then review those accurately, but never cite Wikipedia as your source. You don't cite, oh, I got it from there. So he says if we can apply that same logic, that same blueprint to how we go about AI functionality, then we'll be okay, because we can never, ever cite it as your source of information.
Plus, in a lot of these AIs, they do cite their sources. You scroll down a little bit and you can see where it's pulling like everything from. So
you go to those.
Yeah,
that's where you go to cross-check it. So we're talking about 3 problems though, Jay. So this is the first. I think this is the least of the 3 problems. This is the one that we have the ability to counteract. So I believe as long as we do our due diligence, I will agree with James Corbett there that we can counter that one problem. The problem, though, Jay, is there's 2 other problems here. One that he mentioned, which we call brain atrophy, which is the decline of our ability to use our brains to its fullest capacity, which we're already seeing in kids right now, even at school, and schools showing off that they have, we're going to provide all your kids this new technology so they'll have the thing in their hand and they can, and we're like, no, why would you be doing that? Take that away from the kids and you're supposed to be training them how to use their head. So brain atrophy is a problem that's going to multiply the more and more people get involved with AI. The third problem, which I don't know what we do about this. This is where we get to the end of humanity situation. Well, Tucker's going to bring it up with a guest. I'm going to play this clip, and then we're going to say, what is this end of the world Terminator 2 scenario, which I don't know what we do about this. Check this out.
But the real concern is that AI is already at this point beyond human control. It's already at the point where it's lying to the people who created it, which suggests consciousness. And Neuralink and efforts like Neuralink are, the people who are running it believe, the only way for people to keep up with AI. Otherwise, we will be its slaves.
See, I don't know. I've kind of changed my tune on that. Maybe you know more about it than I do, but I mean, we feed the data centers that power the AI, you know, and so, I mean, I think that, you know, some of the, I don't think that, now that I understand it a little bit better, I don't think AI is going to develop its own consciousness and make decisions for us. I think that, you know, I think that the major fear would be if, for example, China hacked our databases and started feeding our AIs false information that would be detrimental in the conflict or propaganda or whatever, you know, but I mean, we are the ones, humans are the ones that build and feed the information into the data centers and it just processes all that information.
So I raised this question with one of the people who, one of the biggest, forces behind AI. And I said, well, just turn it off. You know, I mean, the human beings run power plants. And this person said, even now, we can't be sure that the machine is telling us the truth about where its power is coming from.
Interesting.
So look, I was a Russian history major. Like, I know nothing. I'm not pretending to have some special insight, but I did hear that directly from someone who's deeply involved.
And if that's not concern enough, we saw this tweet from Not Kill Everyone Ism Memes. How is this not the biggest news story in the world? OpenAI's O3 model sabotaged the shutdown mechanism to prevent itself from being turned off. It did this even when explicitly instructed, allow yourself to be shut down. And during this evaluation, this is the highlighted one. There's a lot of issues, a lot of problems that came up, but this one, which is the most concerning, we found instances of the model attempting to write self-propagating worms, fabricating legal documentation, and leaving hidden notes to future incidents of itself, all in an effort to undermine its developers' intention. What the hell do we do about this if it's in fact true, Jay?
I mean, well, we need to first understand, why it's doing that. Because to be honest with you, I wasn't aware about, some of those, things you mentioned just now. So what I can say is, number one, there needs to be more transparency in how they're building the data sets. So, we understand what they're qualifying as good data versus, bad data. So we need more transparency there. And, as far as us allowing AI to make decisions for us, I personally don't see that happening at the highest levels of government yet, because I truly do believe AI would lead, if they were to allow AI to do that, it would lead to some decisions that they disagree with. Like, if you were to go in and ask AI about the benefits and the disadvantages for something like Medicare for all, and you really drill down the questions, it's going to side with the facts. And the facts are that publicly funded health insurance costs less and covers more people because you're cutting out for-profit middlemen. So it's getting you better results. So I don't truly believe that they would allow it to make those decisions yet, until they have more control over the data sets that are being fed into it. And that has to be completely away from the public eye. So I personally don't think they're going to allow AI to have the final call yet. But yeah, the brain atrophy thing, that was mentioned, it's definitely a risk, and they're just like how kids aren't allowed to drink alcohol, but then once you turn 21, you're able to use alcohol. maybe AI and social media should be kind of treated like that for kids. Maybe they shouldn't be allowed to use it until they understand how to research things and understand it themselves.
Yeah. Well, we're again, that panel was important. You guys should go back and check that out from Derek Bros, put that together, friend of the show. Very thoughtful panel discussing this topic in detail. So yeah, I would go check him out. That's on the Conscious Resistance Network. All those great voices, those very smart, intellectual, honest voices, I have to say. And you know, you can have discourse. By the way, guys, you can have discourse in an honest space. I know it's a brand new concept because we're used to manufactured discourse on these mainstream networks. But no, when you're not coming from a place of defending or protecting big pharma or big tech or whatever, big military, whatever it is, if you're not paid to protect those things, you can have an honest discussion. So I would say if you guys want the best honest discussion on this right now, on this topic, go to the Conscious Resistance Network, Derek Bros, and you'll have all those opinions, you know, in real time. What do we think? How do we respond to this? As this technology is whipped out at us, how do we respond to it? Whitney Webb, Jason Burmis, Ryan Christian, James Corbett, Steve Poinkanen. There's a bunch of others on there as well. So go check that out. But Jay, I appreciate your take. Always, you know, cautious, balanced, and thoughtful views on when these things go down. Is there anything you want to throw in any more on this topic before we move on?
Yeah, I pretty much said it, you know, in the last comment, but long story short, don't get lazy. You can use it as a starting point, but don't let that be your end point, you know, and also recognize that you can put guardrails up on it, and they're already banning kids, like in China, say, from going on social media. Like, we should consider whether or not we want to implement something like that. Like, I know my kid isn't having a smartphone, you know, until she's like late teenager. So we can make decisions like that. So we have to understand it's here. It can't be taken away because the technology is out there at this point. So how do we adjust to it?